The Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order situation in the United States was pretty crazy. Like, genuinely so. I didn't really have the most fun doing it. But I will say that this red card right here, attached to this super long receipt, is actually the way that I was able to secure a Nintendo Switch 2. And while the experience itself was like genuinely frustrating, I think that not only did I learn something through this, but going back to the ways of old, going to a game store, waiting in line for a couple hours was something that I didn't know I needed to remind me of where we are in gaming and where we came from. Now, I want to say something kind of controversial because that's what I do here. I get a little controversial on you. I think that companies should actually ditch the online pre-ordering service and go straight to continuous in-person pre-ordering, which is inconvenient, but a little bit less inconvenient than the whole nonsense that we dealt with online. The online thing, honestly, I think was pretty much, for the most part, dominated by bots and all this stuff. Now, I don't think everybody's a bot. I think that some people genuinely were trying to get one, but here's the deal. Let me go through my experience in line. So it is 11 a.m. I was looking at the 4 or 5 different GameStops in my region, in my area, that were opening. And so of those 4 and 5, there was one next to my daughter's school. Now, my daughter that day, yesterday, she had an event that my wife and I were going to. We were going to hang out with my daughter as she rode her bike around her school and raised money for the school. Really fun. I'm not going to miss that. I'm not at all going to miss that. In fact, I'm not even going to think about the Nintendo Switch 2 while I'm at this event. Now, I woke up in the morning, of course, trying to get on GameStop and dealing with all that nonsense. The GameStop thing crashing going. I was fighting for my life on GameStop. Didn't work. Not even an iota. But anyway, I digress. We're at my daughter's school, and after the event's done, I look at my wife, I go, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to try, because I did no success the night before. I was up until 11:30 p.m. my time. 2.5 hours past the opening of the thing. Right? It was 9 a.m. Here, or 9 p.m. Here, PST, right? 3 hours behind Eastern time. And so I told my wife, I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to go to a GameStop with Jack, right? My son. I'm like, I'm going to risk it. I'm going to try to get to GameStop. I'm going to try to see if I can do the thing. So I show up to GameStop, and there's a bunch of people in line. I just get in the line. I don't even look at the door. Because GameStop, what they were doing was they were telling you on the door how many of the Mario Kart bundles they got and how many of the standard non-bundles, right? The 500 and the 450 versions. And so I didn't even look at the door. I got in the line immediately. There were a bunch of people ahead of me. I counted about 20. And I look at the guy in front of me. I go, how many are there? And they said, we had 20. There were 20 Mario Kart bundles and 12 non-Mario Kart bundles. So 32 total. And I'm like, okay, the odds are looking kind of good. There's 20 people ahead of me, around 20 people. And then, of course, as I say that, someone comes in and is like, hey, thanks for saving my spot, bro, up at the front. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, if I'm sitting here, and mind you, this is 11:15. They open at noon. I have a 1.5-year-old with me who's looking at me like, Dad, what are we going to do? And I'm like, we're going to stand in line for an hour, and this is going to be crazy, and I don't know if this is going to work. But we stood in line, and as I'm there, I'm seeing people come into line, cut in line. I'm like, are you kidding me? I look at the people in front of me, and I was like, here's the deal, dude. I know that you had your homie cruise by, and you guys are, you're saving your buddy a spot. And I said this, and I looked at them, I said this, and I'm like, but this is, dude, I got a 1-year-old, and if more people come into line, I'm going to force them to change my son's diapers, because I'm sitting here with a 1-year-old. Yes, I get it. Some of you guys stayed here overnight. I'm not saying that the people up front shouldn't get their spot, but what I'm saying is if you're holding a spot for 6 people, I'm going to fight you. And so I was getting frustrated. I was getting antsy, but also I wasn't screaming at anybody. I was kind of joking with the people in front of me. They were super cool about it. But I was standing there. My son, dude, Jack was a trooper. Shout out to Jack, dude. Can we get some love for Jack in the comments, dude? Shout out to Jack, dude, because check it. We're at this thing. We're having a blast. Not really. I'm a 1.5-year-old. There's so much uncertainty. If I was number 5, I would have been like, we're set. But I was number 20, and I was like, oh gosh, the odds are not in my favor here with this kid. But I'm sitting there, and first I'm like, let's watch something on the phone, because my son never gets any sort of technology time, because that's the way we run our household. My kids, they get some, but not as often as some other families. And so when I say, hey, Jack, do you want to watch something on the phone? He's super excited. And so he wanted to watch something on the phone. I'm saying, we're going to watch A New Hope because Star Wars. And so we were watching A New Hope. Everything was fine. Everything was good. He was getting kind of antsy. And then the gentleman behind me I started talking to, and we were having a great conversation about video games. He had a kid. Jack got really, really uninterested in Star Wars, and he started picking the leaves off of different bushes, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna, and he was handing it to this guy, and this guy's like, oh, thanks, Jack, can you get me a new one? And so he was super cool, and the people around me were talking, we're having a good time, passing time, we're talking about video games. He's like, oh, what kind of video games do you like? I'm like, I'm playing Final Fantasy, all these things. Shared with him, I'm a huge Nintendo fan. My dad, got me into Nintendo as a kid. I'm getting my kids into Nintendo. We're sharing how our kids play games, right? His son played through different Mario games. My daughter's playing through Mario games. Jack is starting to understand what Mario is and all this stuff. And it was a really, really cool conversation. And people are starting to get in line. I'm like, oh my gosh. At this point, I don't even care. At this point, I'm like, I don't care if I get a Mario Kart version. Of course, I want the Mario Kart version because it's not going to, it's really not gonna, it saves me a few, $30. I had woken up that morning and I was able to secure a Pro 2 controller and a camera. Yes, a camera. I have this crazy camera, but I'm getting, of course, the silly camera. So I was able to secure the two peripherals I was looking for. No memory because I couldn't get a freaking darn express card from Best Buy, a 256 card, which, to be honest, that's not enough. I needed a 512. So I'm standing in line and they open the doors and she's like, all right, let's start going. And people are lining up and the excitement is building. There's an energy in line. Now I have my kid who's, okay, he was good the whole time. I'm just gonna I'm gonna get to the end of that right now. No fits. My 1.5-year-old, his nap time's around 12-ish, noon 30. We were there from 11:15 to 1:30, bro. My 1.5-year-old was in line for over 2 hours with me, and we're playing, and the parents around are like, hey, here's a leaf, here's this, Jack. They're making faces with him, and we're just all together. Everyone's together. Now, of course, I would have felt a little bit less nervous if I was closer to the front, but whatever. Well, as time went on, people were actually self-policing. They're like, no, you can't cut. No, sorry. If your buddy's holding your spot, it's not going to happen. And a couple of that happening. They're like, really? And we're like, yeah, dude, we're here. We're all here. We all woke up for this. Like, we're here to do this, right? And I look at them, I'm like holding my kid. I'm like, we're here, dude. Like, we put the work in, okay? We're sitting here, we're standing here, we're doing our thing. And so we're there in line, and it's getting closer and closer. And the guys in front of me, super cool, they're super nice. I'm talking with the guy, they go in, and I'm sitting at the door, and I'm just like, dude, I don't know what number we're at. I thought it was at like 22, but people are walking in. There's only 32 here. Ugh. And the guy looks at me in the front row, and he just goes, and I'm like, 2? Like, piece? Sorry? He goes, 2 left. I'm like, oh, 2 left? Oh, there's 2 of him. Oh no, there's him and his friend. I say it that way because I don't know. And his name is, there's 2 left. And there's a woman already in there as well. I'm like, 2 left? No more? He goes, 2 Mario Kart left. You are good. And I'm like, oh, I'm good? I got one? He goes, yeah, you got one. You got one. And he's going like this. He's quiet, of course. And the woman that behind the counter is doing her thing, right? The GameStop employee. And I'm like, I'm standing there. I look at Jack. I'm like, Jack, we got it. They were taking a long time too. I mean, doors opened at noon. I didn't get to the counter until 1:15. I grab Jack. I hold him up. I'm like, we got it, buddy. And he's all like freaking out. And the guy behind me is like, is there none left? I'm like, I don't know, dude. But like, I got real close to him. I'm like, there seems 2 left. I don't know. Like, we'll see. So I get up there and she goes, congratulations. We just switched 2 for you. Which one would you like? And I was like, I get options. I'll take the Mario Kart one. She's like, of course. Would you like anything else? I'm like, do you have a Pro controller? Now, mind you, I've already secured a Pro 2 controller or Pro Controller Plus or whatever from Best Buy. And I was fine. But I was like, I'd rather get everything in one place. And so she's like, yeah, we do. And then Best Buy one was shipping and all this stuff. So she's like, we do. We have 1 left. I'm like, I'll take the Pro 2 controller, please. Or the Nintendo Switch controller, Pro Switch 2 controller, whatever. They have a weird name for it. The Pro 2 is what 8BitDo calls theirs, but whatever. So I was getting the Nintendo Switch branded one. And she's like, I'm like, do you have a camera? She goes, we actually have 1 more. And I'm like, Oh, now, I'm all about camaraderie. I'm all about brotherhood. I'm all about making sure the boys get what they want. So the guy behind me, who was a dad, I looked to him, I said, are you getting a camera or a controller, right? Just asking him because I technically already had them secured. And so I didn't want to take it from him, right? I'd become friendly with him. And he goes, oh, no, I'm good. And I look behind the counter behind him and they're like, no. And so I was like, okay. So I don't feel bad. I'm like, yes, please can I have the Pro Controller and this? And she goes, okay. Now, you are getting the digital version of Mario Kart. So that means that that's going to come, I mean, that all that data is going to be on the device. Do you want any memory cards? I'm like, I don't know, dude, 256? She goes, oh, no, we have 256, 512, and 1 terabyte here at GameStop. I'm like, what? Now, the price point on these Express cards, I think, is a little inflated. I don't think that $200 or $190 for a 1 terabyte card is worth it at all. It is pretty impressive that a micro SD card can do that, but I'm like, no. So I was like, how much is the 512? She's like, $100. I'm like, all right, the 256 is kind of a wash. That seems like a waste to me, but the 512 seems like it has multi-purpose use. I could utilize that in other pieces of hardware. I'll just go with the 512. And then as the year goes on, and I recommend this to anyone who's like looking, which one should I get? I think expanding your storage is very, very important. Very important. But if it was which one should you get, 512 or 1 terabyte, I'd say honestly, what I am doing is I'm getting the 512 now. That should hold me over. 256 internal, 512 additional. And with that, I'm going to wait for these prices to come down. There's no way that a 2 terabyte card is going to stay at $300-400, right? I'd spend $150 on a 2 terabyte card because now we're getting into SSD range. I'd spend that money on a 2 terabyte card to put in rather than a $200 on 1 terabyte. You know what I mean? And so I was like, yeah, we're going to go with that. She goes, okay, is there anything else you'd like to do? Would you like to reserve any other games? I'm like, let's reserve Donkey Kong. Might as well, you know, like I'm here, you know, let's get Donkey Kong. And so the final things that I reserved at GameStop was I got a Mario Kart World Bundle, Pro Controller, the Nintendo Switch 2 Pro Controller, the Switch 2 camera, Express Micro SD card, as well as finally the Donkey Kong Bonanza Nintendo Switch 2. And so I'm sitting there and I'm going like, this GameStop is not near my house. Now, it's not far, right? There's one near my house that's like 15 minutes away, and this one was like 35 minutes away. So it wasn't tremendously far, but it's not near my house. I'm like, okay, cool. Originally, Best Buy, Target, Walmart, all of them were shipped to my home. And as I was looking at the ship times, it was like later and later and later. And I was like, oh, this is a nightmare. I don't want, like, I'm getting that FOMO feel. I would rather not have to wait if I didn't have to. I want in-store pickup if possible. Some of them are doing midnight, some of them aren't. But as I was standing there in line, as I was looking back on the experience, I was like, this was so, aside from the uncertainty, this was so magical. Now, super not realistic for parents, but still, this was so magical. There was a tremendous amount of frustration that had already taken place the night before and the morning of. And so for these people, like, I was just like, man, how do we get past that? How do we as a gaming community experience what it was when you like, everyone gets their thing and they're just like, I got one. And people in line are like, you got one. This is so cool. I got one too. And like this fun, actual celebration, this feeling, this community coming together, which honestly only Nintendo can do. You guys are gonna get mad for me saying that, but I'm honestly, you're not gonna see someone at Best Buy going, I got a graphics card. Like, it's just not the same feeling. But this magic that exists there, like, it was so special. And I did do that. I was like, I got one. And the woman behind the counter was like, you did. This is so cool. I'm so happy for you. And like, she was genuine. Okay. GameStop, if you're listening, never leave us. You're the last leg we have. I would have never thought that GameStop would be the saving grace of the gaming community. The once, like, hated company for their pricing structure has become the deliverer, right? The actual company, GameStop, not only like pulled through in this, the online situation was gnarly, but I don't even fault GameStop, Best Buy, and Walmart or Target for their online situation, because we all know that it's this brute force scalping situation that's going on. I don't fault them for it. It's situational, it's circumstantial. Sure, you can prepare as much as you want. I'm not going to pretend that I understand the back end work, so I don't know if they're underprepared, they could have done something. I don't know. But what I will say is the actual handling of it in store I'm talking over communication. We have 32 units, 20 of them are bundles, 12 of them are standalones. Here's a piece of paper with everything we're offering for pre-order. Here's a pen. Mark which ones you would like. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask us. They were doing the line. They were running up and down the line answering questions before they opened. An hour before they opened. Now, I don't know if my GameStop experience is the one that other people had, but it was so personal and so tailored. It was so well done. And so she goes, these are the amiibos that are releasing. If you're an amiibo collector, these are all the games you can pre-order. Here's the hardware available. Here's how many units we have. Here's how many people are in line in front of you. Like, it was really, really super awesome the way it was handled. And I thought to myself, I'm like, this is akin to back in the day when we used to go to midnight releases, which I'll get to in just a second, when we used to get excited about these experiences that we could have and share together, when the gaming community could come together. I mean, I saw countless posts on Twitter of like someone setting up outside playing Super Smash Brothers while they wait. Like, this feeling is so beautiful. And I think that if we look to the experience that was had the night before in the United States, I can't speak to anything that's happening in other places of the world because I don't live there. But if we look to the experience that was had with Walmart, all of them, it was devastating, right? And I say that with an asterisk because it's just video games. But the excitement, the anticipation, I went out on a limb. I decided I was going to cover the Nintendo Switch in a positive light, and I will just be transparent with you guys. Over these past month, let's couple it with my inconsistency because we know that that's something that happens, I have lost over like 1,500 subscribers. My channel as a whole has not benefited from me deciding to go very, very positive and all in on Nintendo, right? Part of that is algorithmically, you guys are kind of tuned to listen to the Steam Deck thing, but the amount of people who have just been like, you're a shill, has been very, very high. And I'm sensitive, so it affects me, but I'm going all in. That evening, when I spent 2.5 hours trying to lock in just a pre-order of the system so I could have one to share in the excitement sometime that week, all of that ambiguity, to lose that night, to have friends who are like, I don't know if I'm going to get one, log in and get one immediately. That feeling was devastating. It was frustrating, and I couldn't help but feel very defeated. The next morning, hoping that my GameStop pre-order would go through, to have the same experience, to just go online and to see people be like, oh, dude, Nintendo sucks. They should have handled this better. To see people that were in my own Discord who had heavy criticism for Nintendo and their Switch 2, and to be like, yeah, money hungry, but I'll get one anyway. Get one before me left me with a very inappropriate amount of bitterness. I was upset. I was frustrated. I was like, I'm sold out for this thing. I'm the person who is ignorantly purchasing Nintendo games that are underpowered. Like, I am that person. I'm a fan. And to lose to people who are not just fans, but outspoken about how much they despise Nintendo, really was a tough pill to swallow, a learning experience, right? We have no control over the outcome, only over our own approach to the situation at hand, something that I'm working on personally. But when I went in person, and I saw the other people who were like-minded, who were like, I'm here, we're excited. There's a reason why I'm standing in line. To see someone who had been there since the night before, sitting in a chair with a blanket. I haven't seen that sight since I was a kid. I'm in my 30s. I was sitting on the floor with my son on my lap, watching Star Wars, waiting for the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order to open. This is a memory I'll never forget. I will tell him when he is of age to understand the situation. Hey, we're playing Mario Kart together, but you, when you were 1.5, sat on my lap while I waited to just purchase this thing. That's something that is so special. And in my defeated, very bitterness in that morning or that evening, in that whole thing, I realized that there isn't a massive hatred and disgust and dislike for Nintendo. Even in the grand anger and frustration around the situation, it just isn't as big as the internet makes it seem. What it is a genuine yearning for an experience that we once had. Some call that nostalgia, I'd agree, but others call it hearkening back to something special. I mean, with the release of Oblivion, the remaster, Xbox releasing it, or Microsoft releasing it, or Bethesda, I feel like they're all synonymous at this point. We see that people just want to enjoy the things that they enjoyed, right? The good old analogy I used in my last cup, if you haven't seen it, you can go back and watch it, but they just want to go and have that burger. The simple In-N-Out burger. Not the complicated Red Robin, 15 different things, but the simple things that we just come back to. You know, when you go to a restaurant enough, you just order the same thing over and over again, even though they have 150 things on the menu. That feeling. And when I was leaving GameStop, high-fiving people on my way out, saying, hey, there's one for you too. Getting genuinely excited for the dude I met in line who is going to get a Nintendo Switch, share those moments with his son, and as he was sharing with me, then pack everything up with his kid, his 5-year-old, and his wife, and go to Japan. Like, I'm like, this is so cool. This is so cool. Like, these stories are out there. And not only are they out there, but I'm going to say they're the common one. I would love to see, how do we fix this, right? How do we fix this problem that we're seeing with scalpers and all this nonsense online? Well, first off, the problem exists because of two things. Laziness and overconsumption. Yes, those are the two negatives. Let me explain what I mean by that. Laziness. I don't want to leave my home. I want everything delivered to my doorstep. It's convenient. And it's so convenient that I no longer have to think about anything. I can just click and it shows up, and I no longer am consciously being a part of the process, which is thinking about a purchase, going, right? It happens everywhere. We've been very much so conditioned to just not think and purchase, right? Amazon delivered to your doorstep, groceries delivered to your doorstep, meals delivered to your doorstep, like very much so. We don't think, it shows up. We have no effort anymore. But what if Nintendo, what if Xbox, Microsoft, or Sony, or whoever decided that with the next launch, which I think Nintendo, if you do another mid-cycle refresh with the OLED or whatever, please do it this way. Instead of sending the GameStop I went to with 32 total units, I know that some got 100, instead of sending them 32 units and allow for hundreds, if not thousands, to be purchased online, flip it. Flip it. Send the retailers thousands of units. Let people come in person and reserve those units. Let that happen. This combats the whole process, the whole scalper thing. It requires individuals to come in and be excited, and it promotes the very community that the Nintendo Switch 2 is using as a marketing strategy. I think that if I stood in a line, I think the line ended up probably being 50 deep. Mind you, I was 28. I don't know if I mentioned that. 28 out of 32. 28th. Imagine if that store had 100, 150. Imagine if people right now, today, are walking in to reserve their Nintendo Switch 2. The online world is cracked. It's broken. It's filled with bots, whatever it may be. And we're seeing that happen more and more. The convenience factor has started to affect our daily lives and become wildly inconvenient. And I think that fixing the problem is just in store. I mean, the distribution process that they're trying to do online with Nintendo Switch Online, saying, hey, we have a Nintendo Switch Online subscription, that if you have one, we'll send it to you as long as you have this much. Some people don't feel comfortable sharing their personal information with a big company, and so they've decided not to. And those people may have thousands and thousands of hours logged, may have been subscribers of the service for 6 years since launch, like myself, and they just don't feel comfortable sharing their game data with the world. Well, them missing out on an invite because they want their privacy to be maintained, that kind of is a bummer, right? That's a bummer. Now, I'm not criticizing. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to create a system in which real people get real devices versus fake people. We see what's happening on eBay. I think that eBay should absolutely go in and get rid of all these people. It's criminal. I try to stay out of the conversation, but I very much so don't like scalpers. Very big deal. I don't like it. I think it's gross. I think it's scummy. It is what it is. Not a fan. But my experience getting my Nintendo Switch 2 will be unforgettable. My experience not being able to order my Nintendo Switch 2 will be unforgettable. My learning experience through all of it, that the community around video games is not just vibrant, but it's positive, will also be remembered forever. The amount of parents in line saying, I can't wait to give this to my kid. I'm so excited to share this with my kid. The dad I talked to just today at my wife's work, who shared the story about how his wife was able to lock in the pre-order, the excitement around that. Like, that was invigorating. I was just like, I'm so excited you got one. This is so cool. He lucked out with the online thing where I didn't. It was a complete and utter crapshoot online. But the thread that I see through this whole experience is that there are so many more people out there excited about this than aren't excited about it. But what is very, very sexy is screaming and yelling about how terrible something is. I just don't see it. This experience, though it was harrowing at times, definitely taught me something. It taught me that there is so much good out there still. So much good. There was a point where my son made his diaper very stinky. He dropped a doozy, dude. And I had to go change it. And I look at all the people behind me. I'm like, I have to go change my son's diaper. Can you just hold my spot? And everyone's like, yeah, no, you're good, dude. We got you. I'm like, if they come out and start handing out tickets, can you please tell them? And the guy, like, they're like, yeah, dude. Like, it was great. It was genuinely just such a magical experience. And imagine if that was the case all the time. It would be so great, right? And again, I had to do it with a 1.5-year-old. Not ideal. But I wouldn't have been able to talk to all these people if it wasn't for that. So I'm excited to say I'll have a Nintendo Switch. They're doing a midnight release, but the midnight release is Eastern time. So I'm actually going to be receiving Wednesday my Nintendo Switch 2 at 9 p.m. Great. And then that Friday, I'm announcing it here, and there'll be plenty of talk of this, over on twitch.tv/jdxcoffee. I will start my day one of a multi-day continuous live stream. They call them streamathons or subathons. I'm calling it the Coffee-thon. And it will be starting on Friday, June 6th. I believe it's June 6th. I think that's a Friday. Whatever that Friday is. That day is dedicated to the Nintendo Switch 2 release, non-stop Mario Kart, and checking out other games. I'm super excited, so stoked. There's a lot of us out there who are positive. So, as always, play more and be kind.